Hi, everybody. Welcome to Your Life Projectized. Today is episode number 29. And as always, I have an absolutely phenomenal guest who is joining us today. Today's episode title is called Beyond Deadlines, the Psychology and Ethics of a Project Leader. And I think this is just such an important topic. And I'm so glad that I have my guest with me today. My guest is Christina Ilika, who I'm going to give the mic to so she can introduce herself. And Christina, why don't you share with the audience who you are, where you're joining us from, and just a little bit about yourself?
Hello, thank you very much for having me today. So, I work in project management, and previously I spent over 8 years in finance. So, this is quite a mix of things that I've been doing. I am a very active member of PMI community, and this is how we learned about each other. So I'm very happy that this community is still alive, it's working, and it's connecting amazing people. And I'm really excited about the psychology in project management and how to best that guide people, how to best coach them, and how to ensure that they stay motivated and excited throughout their project management journey.
Absolutely. I love that. And Christina, I love the other thing that you mentioned. You said through PMI, we met through PMI, and PMI is a great community, especially for not just learning and education, but really for networking with like-minded professionals. So
Yeah.
I am so glad that it brought us together. And I'm so glad that we're going to delve on this very important topic today. So Christina, I was so excited to have this conversation. I was really looking forward to it. And as I was thinking about our topic, a lot of questions came to mind, right? So I know just not even just in the world of project management, but oftentimes it
Yeah.
can be difficult to know what is the morally right thing to do versus what is expected, right? So speaking about project management, though, in a world of scope creep and where you have a lot of tight deadlines, and I'm sure you're familiar with tight deadlines,
Yeah.
Christina, how do you stay anchored, or how can our audience members stay anchored to what's morally right versus what is expected of them?
This is an excellent question. And to be honest, very often, sometimes what is expected of us is already morally right, because it doesn't mean that the things that we are doing are inherently wrong and inherently very complicated. But sometimes it happens that we need to make a tough decision. And I always like to say that we should be doing the right thing instead of doing things right. And it's about communication, it's about facilitation. But also, I like to think about the concept that I've learned some time ago about being true north is when you're very open, you're very direct, and you analyze almost everything that is possible to ensure that the things that you're doing in the direction in which you're going is correct. Because sometimes what is expected of us is a very tricky thing because people tend to have expectations which they believe are true, and our job is to ensure that we try to meet them, right? But we need to ensure that they understand if these expectations are even needed, or we. It's about stakeholders. It's about the things that are happening throughout life. So my answer is being true north, being direct, honest, and doing the right thing.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And I think those are just such important traits to have anyway, right? Like and always doing the right thing. And not to get too off topic, but in my
Yeah.
religion, I wear this silver bracelet, and this silver bracelet for me is a reminder, not that I need a reminder, but it's just a reminder to always do the right thing. And I
Oh,
love, yeah, I love that you
it's so
touched on
sweet.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And so, Christina, so that actually makes me think. So, have you yourself, and I'm sure you have, I'm sure you've run into this multiple times. Have you ever been in a situation on maybe one of your projects where you had to make a really difficult ethical decision on a project, and then and if you ever had that situation, how did you navigate that?
I like to think about the decisions, especially when it comes to people, through the methodology of McGregor. Maybe you remember about theory X and theory Y, right?
Yeah.
Y. I like to say Y. So it's very easy to say that we are all Y people, and we say we are not judging people. We are not those leaders who micromanage. But it's very easy to say that, and I think that true philosophy that we should put in our minds when talking about this is that people are inherently with good motivations, and inherently they want to do something right. They want to work, they want to feel fulfillment and be happy, but we are all very irrational. And the why I'm going to mention a couple of books here because this is I'm very happy to mention books always. So this is the book titled "The Upside of Irrationality" by Dan Ariely, and this is the point. Like why I'm saying this, because this is the point where people already have everything at the workplace. Imagine they have everything. They have a good salary, they have a good team, everything is right. But they do not see the point or the purpose of the things that they're doing. And then they start to lose it. Doesn't matter how much you pay them. If they lose the purpose, they lose everything and you cannot motivate them anymore.
Yeah.
So the task here, I think the morality here is to be transparent and communicate the things that are happening so people have the purpose of their work. They feel fulfilled. They feel heard, and this is how you move forward. Otherwise, I don't think this is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really appreciate the fact that you touched on communication, right? Because as I say all the time, and as PMI teaches us, right, 90% of project management is communication. And I
Of
think it's
course.
just right, and it's just about, in my opinion, just setting expectations and just communicating. And I know not everyone agrees with me on this, but I feel sometimes even if you have to over communicate, I think over communicating is better than under communicating, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page.
Oh, I don't even think there is such thing as over communication because I think that being like talking to people and ensuring that they're informed is not a bad thing. I think that anyone can ever complain about not knowing something than being if you're nice to them and if you remind of something that I don't think anyone would complain. So I even received feedback once from my manager who was previously from marketing, and then she also moved to project management. And she said that I tend to remind my stakeholders about the value that we bring more that they would expect. But thanks to that, all of my projects are successful. So I really remember that, and I think this is the sometimes the things that we are lacking because we think of us in a humble way. And I love the approach people in marketing have that they tend to say about the value a lot. And this is what we should also be doing.
Oh, couldn't agree more. I think the value of what we're doing, I think it's so important to always remain focused on what the value is to
Yes.
not just to the team members, not just to the project, but really to the client or whomever it is that you're serving. And that's why I think servant leadership is so important. I think in a lot of our roles, right, that's exactly what we're doing. We're being servant leaders.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. And so, Christina, so as we're talking, I'm thinking about so I was thinking about a question, and I would love to get your perspective on this. So, Christina, I don't know about you. I was not when I was a little girl, I didn't think I was going to be a project manager when I grew up, right? So, do you think, Christina, that project managers are born, or do you think that they're made? And then I have a follow-up question to that.
Yeah. So this is an excellent question. No one ever thinks about project management when they are kids. And I think that everyone will agree that everything in our life is a project. Even the
Yes.
assembling IKEA furniture is also a project and a
Yes.
complicated one sometimes. Um, but I think that anyone can be one. Why? Recently, I stumbled upon a very interesting situation um, where I was working with a coach, and he was describing to me a situation when you unload a dishwasher or you load the dishwasher. And this situation it made me feel so special. Like, yes, I'm so analytical, I'm so organized, I'm able to load this dishwasher like no one ever does on this planet. And this is like a Barnum effect, where the traits that he described to me as my special traits are actually, anyone has them. Anyone can be very detailed and organized. And this is why I'm saying that anyone can be a project manager, because everyone has these traits, because we are functioning in such a society where we have to think ahead, when we have to plan our groceries, when we have to think about our kids and things like that. So originally, we all have the traits, but it's just the fact of people having the motivation or not.
Yeah,
That's my
absolutely.
opinion.
Yeah,
Mm.
I agree. And actually, you ended up answering my next question. You're so futuristic.
Sorry.
No, you read my mind, because that was going to be my next question. I was going to say, what are the traits that you think make a good project manager, or make a person I guess, right for the profession, and
Yeah,
you answered it right, being detail oriented, and you're so right that these are things that a person can learn.
yeah,
It doesn't necessarily have to be something that someone is born with, right? I even think about, right, even when we're in, like you just mentioned, even when we're putting together IKEA furniture, or we're doing a project at home, and you think about all the details that you're paying attention to, and the schedule that you're trying to make sure that you are, or the target date that you're hitting. I
yeah,
think that again goes to show, to your point, that yes, anyone can be a project manager. And if they don't have all of those traits, they can easily learn those traits.
for sure.
Yeah. And so I would love to hear your perspective on this also, Christina. So if you could, again, because I know you have worked in project in the field for quite some time and you have so much experience. And if you could give one piece of advice to maybe new project managers about how they can lead with integrity, what would that piece of advice be?
First of all, I would say listen to your experts, trust in your team, and do not take everything, like literally everything, on your shoulders. Because new project managers, young leaders, they're very motivated. They want to do everything, they want to control everything, they want to be in charge. But the truth is, one person cannot function like that forever. And at the end, if you do not teach your team to talk to each other, they will have to talk to you. And you do not have to be the only facilitator. You need to ensure that the team is functioning properly, that people trust each other, that they know how to work with each other. So if you put success in your team and in your people and in their development, I'm pretty sure that you will grow with them, because you grow through them. You cannot do projects alone. You need people for that. And I think I delegation is another very important thing. I think we need to learn to delegate and to trust, and to be able to, of course, we answer for everything, but we should be supportive always. So yeah, we grow through others. This is how we succeed.
Oh, what an excellent, excellent piece of advice. It's funny, Christina, when I started off in project management, as you were talking, I was kind of smiling to myself, because you just described me as a new project manager.
I
I,
described
you
myself.
too. Well, right, where you want to do all that, you are want to be in control, and you want to do all the tasks, until you realize, like you just said, right, you can't do everything, and you have to delineate, and you have to, and something else important that you mentioned is trust, right? Trusting that your team
Yeah,
will do what it takes to get things done.
yes, yes. Because you cannot be controlling. That's not how it works.
Yeah,
You have the team of experts, they know better. Even if you think you know better, no, they know better.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so Christian, that's such a great piece of advice. And so, How do you feel? How do you think project managers like, can balance empathy and accountability when they're leading maybe diverse teams under pressure? Because I'm sure you would agree, and I'm sure that you've experienced this. I'm sure you've led diverse teams or you've been part of diverse teams where sometimes there is a lot of pressure. And I know when there's a lot of pressure, sometimes even though again, I do feel that we all try to do the right thing all the time. I know sometimes those lines can become a little bit blurred when you're under strict deadlines, but how do
Yeah.
you balance the empathy, but then also ensuring folks are held accountable, not just the team members, but you yourself as a project leader?
Yeah, very good question. This was actually one of the topics with my coach as well, because I remember coming to her and saying, "Hey, Agnieszka, I thought that the most difficult thing are the technical aspects on projects, where in fact the most difficult things were people. And not because something was wrong, but because I had to talk to them and face a lot of things, a lot of issues that I didn't expect. I really didn't. And it's not connected to them being unsuccessful. It was connected to them feeling down when things go south. And on one hand side, you answer to your stakeholders, to your managers, to the board, but on the other hand side, you answer to your team if they feel down. And I think that the job of the project manager is to keep both sides happy. This is where empathy comes. So accountability goes to the board and empathy goes to the team. Because if you don't talk to one side, you put pressure on the other one, and vice versa. If you only listen to your team, then you're going to have problems on the other side. And this balance is the trickiest, right? Because we want to do our best, but we need to stay realistic. I think realism and the like good planning, where we really put a lot of work into planning, this is how we invest our time at the beginning and then save one side from frustration and the other side from breaking down because they don't manage the deadline or something else. um, Realism, and we should try to underestimate everything and think that the worst case scenario, I always try to communicate the worst case scenario, that even if something takes 1 month, I try to say to ensure that, because we never know, somebody may get sick, somebody may something else may happen or may have a longer vacation. Under promising, being realistic, and ensuring that that both sides at least try to stay happy. And this is
Yeah.
how we save our sanity.
Yeah, such an important thing, especially in the project management world. And I think Christina, again, I love the way that you put that. And I especially love when you said checking in with your team, showing them empathy, recognizing that people go through different things in their lives,
Yeah,
right? I think that is such a key component of ensuring happy team members. And again, this is something I'm constantly learning, and I wouldn't say I'm perfect at this. I'm getting better, but I think it's so important to check in with your team members because you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know what a person has going on in their lives. Somebody could be smiling and look
yeah,
happy, right? And you don't know that their pet may have just passed away. There's so many things that may be going on in their lives. Maybe they just
exactly.
lost one of their contracts, and right. So there's so many things that we don't know. So I do think it's important to check in and then show empathy for what a person is going through. And something I try to practice is I really do try to put myself in someone else's shoes and say, if I was going through this, how would I want someone to approach me? What are some
Yeah,
questions maybe I would want someone to ask me?
yes, this is a very good advice as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And are there, Christina, are there additional tips that you have maybe for checking in with your team members, really checking to see how they're doing so that you can exercise that empathy and that compassion?
What I really loved to do was meeting them in person. I know we'll work a lot virtually, and unfortunately, I was not able to check in with everyone personally always because some of them may have been in Mexico, some of them may have been in the US, like you. I'm based in London. Um, People are everywhere, but if I could, and if I knew that the person is working with me in the same office or at least in the same city, I wanted to see them in person. I wanted to invite them to the office for coffee and organize one-to-one sessions just to check in to see how they're doing. Because on one hand side, we talk a lot about work on our one-to-ones, like our on when we are doing Scrum on check-ins in the morning, like we always do. But that's about work, and it doesn't really give us the context on why some things are happening. Why John, for example, was didn't manage to finish the code, or why something else happened. So if we put additional context and if we organize one-to-one sessions with people, if possible, in person, and just see how they're doing and just check in with them and ask, how may I help you? Try to coach them, try to motivate them. Maybe just listen sometimes. That's very important for people, and it's really working. I used to take an example of one person in my previous office who worked for over 30 years in project management in real estate. And I asked her, like, if you could give me one advice, only one, about how to deal with people, what would you do? She was managing like 200 plus people at some point, and she said, easy, you listen to them. So sometimes we think that by talking, by motivating, by facilitating, we do more. But maybe sometimes listening is important because this is difficult. You may not like what you hear, but your task is to understand and put yourself in somebody else's shoes.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I love that you said listen, because I think sometimes, a lot of times when we're having a conversation with somebody, we're thinking about our turn to talk, right? And when that
Yeah,
person, and we're not necessarily listening to them, we're not really hearing what they're saying. I think it's so important to sometimes just give a person an opportunity to just talk without interrupting them. Just let
yeah,
them talk and just listen and just be that ear for them. And I absolutely love that you mentioned that, because I think I really do think, I think it's so important. And I think that's something that we all could get a little bit better at. That's
yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. So, Christina, so we're getting close to the end of our time, which I hate, because I feel like I could talk to you all day. You just have
Two.
you have so many great insights. You really do, and you're just such a warm, friendly person. Um, so I want to know, and I asked you earlier in this conversation. I asked you, what are some of the things that you think make a project manager? Do you feel that they're born, or do you feel that they're made? And we obviously discussed that anyone can be a project manager, and if they don't have those skills, they can learn those skills. And I mentioned, right, when I was a little girl, I didn't think I was going to grow up to be a project manager. Very far from it. So I ask all of my guests this question, and I would love to ask you this as well. When you were a little girl, Christina, and you were imagining what you were going to be when you grew up, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, that's easy. That's very easy. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to help people. I wanted to fix them if they're wrong, if they're sick, if they are, do not feel well. And I think that partially why I love working with people so much and while I am in the field is because of that. I was very good with people, and I saw the possibility um, of being a doctor and working with them and helping them and facilitating them. Probably I should have been a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a therapist. I think that would be perfect. But that's what I try to do in my one-to-ones now. Yeah. a doctor.
Oh, I love it. And you know what? That definitely comes across, and I could see that because as I mentioned earlier, I think right, a lot of us are servant leaders, but I definitely see that in you. I think even from the conversations that we've had leading up to this conversation, I definitely felt that from you, and I just a warmth, and energy, and just a kindness and empathy, and that definitely comes across. So I think you would have been great in any of those roles, but I am grateful that you decided to join the project management profession because I can just imagine how many individuals that you have served already.
Yes, I'm really grateful to them. I always say this is not me, this were my people.
Oh, that's sweet. That is very sweet. Well, yeah. So, Christina, I know I have so many questions in my mind, obviously, that I would want to ask you, but I know we're getting to the end of our time. So, any closing remarks? Anything you want to share with our audience? And of course, this episode is going to air on the 1st. So, July 1st, this episode will air. I will tag you in this episode. And I would
Yeah,
also love, Christina, if you could send me maybe the names of those books that or the book that you were referencing, or any other books that you think
yes.
would be a great resource.
Hmm.
But yeah, any closing thoughts, anything else that you really want to ensure that you get across to our audience, to our listeners today?
I would say to keep being motivated and never give up. That's very important. We sometimes feel down. Project management is hard. Life is hard. Everything is hard. But the most
Yeah.
important thing, never give up and stay motivated because this is how you go through this.
Absolutely, absolutely. Remain resilient. Yes, yes, never stop. I love it. Well, Christina, again, thank you so very much. I'm so glad that you were on today's episode. I'm so glad for, I'm going to say, Mihao for making the introduction.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
So shout out to Mihao for introducing us.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Miho.
thank you, Mihao. And for folks that are wondering, Mihao is a mutual friend of ours who
Yes.
I met in Barcelona at the PMI Global Summit there in Barcelona. So, again, thank you so much, Christina. And again, I am so excited for this episode to air, and I'm sure our audience is going to be thrilled and have so many takeaways from this session. So, thank you again.
Thank you very much for having me.